A single sheet of paper. That is all it takes to erase a royal princess overnight. While the world focuses on the public downfall of their parents, a quiet, ruthless operation has begun behind palace walls, and Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are directly in the line of fire. For months, the public has been told that their titles are safe, protected by historic laws that no king can touch. But that is a lie. A silent storm is brewing, and the true reason these sisters are suddenly fighting a desperate, invisible battle for their survival has nothing to do with the headlines you've been reading. The Crown is quietly rewriting the rules, and by the end of this video, you will understand the exact hidden maneuver that could strip them of everything, and why their very next move will decide their fate forever. If you want the real story of this family, told straight from the official records and nothing else, take a second to hit that subscribe button. We watch the paperwork so you don't have to. For years, a single comforting lie has kept the world from realizing how fragile Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie's positions truly are. If you open almost any newspaper or watch any royal report, you will hear the exact same reassuring story. They tell you the nieces of King Charles are completely safe. They claim their princess titles are locked away in a legal vault that no king can ever touch. But that is completely wrong. According to the popular narrative, stripping them of their titles would require a massive historic vote in the British Parliament. It would mean public debates, political warfare, and a long, messy battle that the royal house would never dare to risk. This explanation sounds official. It has been repeated so many times that the public has accepted it as an absolute fact. But when you examine the actual laws of the British state, this entire safety net completely vanishes. To understand why, we have to look at how royal titles are actually born. They do not come from a vote in Parliament. They come from a single, centuries-old concept known as the royal prerogative. In simple terms, the monarch holds the absolute authority to decide who gets to be called a prince, a princess, or their royal highness. It is a gift given entirely at the sovereign's discretion, and what can be given with a stroke of a pen can be taken away just as easily. Reports suggest the tabloids often ignore a blunt reality published by the House of Commons Library itself. Their official guidance states that the title of prince or princess can be removed in two ways, by Parliament or under the prerogative. That second path means the king acting entirely on his own authority. There would be no debates, no votes, no public consensus. If King Charles decided tomorrow that his nieces should no longer hold their titles, he wouldn't need to ask permission from a single politician. He would simply sign a new decree, and by the next morning they would be stripped of their royal status. So, if the law doesn't protect them, where did this massive rumor about Parliament actually come from? The answer lies in a clever legal mix-up. A mix-up that confuses their royal names with something far more powerful, hidden deep within the British Constitution. There is a massive legal shield that genuinely protects the York family from the king's authority. But the media has spent years attaching that shield to the wrong target. It is claimed that the confusion stems from a basic misunderstanding of the British Constitution. There is one aspect of Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie's royal existence that King Charles absolutely cannot touch on his own. But it is not their titles. It is their place in the line of succession. Under British law, the line of succession is locked down by parliamentary statute. To alter it, Parliament must debate, vote, and pass a brand new law. Even if a royal falls into total public disgrace, they remain in the line of succession unless politicians step in to remove them. And this is where the puzzle pieces finally start to fit together. Because the media saw that the line of succession was legally untouchable, they assumed the titles of prince and princess were protected in the exact same way. But they are not. They exist in two completely different legal categories. To make matters even more confusing, commentators frequently point to an ancient, dusty law from the First World War, the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917. It is believed this is the specific law people are half remembering when they argue that Parliament must be involved. This act was used to strip British titles from foreign nobles who had fought against Britain in wartime. But insiders say this law is completely useless for a modern royal crisis. It was written specifically for treason during a global conflict. It is not a general-purpose tool that can be used today just because a family member's reputation has been deeply damaged. So, with no wartime treason and no act of parliament in sight, the public assumed the sisters were completely safe. But then, the British government quietly broke its silence. The leader of the House of Commons was asked a direct question about who ultimately controls these royal titles. His response was just one line long, but it shattered the illusion of safety forever. He stated, on the record, that the question of titles is primarily a matter for the king. With those few words, the government handed the keys right back to King Charles, and just as the public began to realize the king held all the power over their names, a brand new, highly sensitive document emerged, one that would expose a massive financial secret the sisters desperately wanted to keep hidden. The Crown can tolerate a legal debate, but it will never tolerate a bad bill. While the internet was busy arguing over whether King Charles could legally strip Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie of their titles, the British state quietly opened a file on where they live. In June of 2026, the National Audit Office dropped a highly sensitive report that sent shockwaves through the palace. The Audit Office isn't a gossip column. It is the independent watchdog that tracks how public money is spent, and its findings exposed a massive financial arrangement the sisters desperately wanted to keep hidden. According to the official report, Princess Beatrice has been living in a luxury apartment inside St. James's Palace. Meanwhile, Princess Eugenie has been occupying Ivy Cottage at Kensington Palace. Under normal circumstances, this might seem standard for members of the royal family. Except for one glaring detail, neither Beatrice nor Eugenie are working royals. They do not represent the crown, they do not carry out official duties, and they both have highly successful private careers. Yet, they have been living in prime, highly secure palace properties at massive discounts. The report revealed that the royal household has a policy for non-working royals living in these secure zones, requiring them to pay an adjusted rent of about 60% of the open market value. But for years, the math didn't add up. It is claimed that Eugenie's rent was being calculated against an outdated property valuation from 2018, and Beatrice's was stuck on a valuation from 2020. While the London rental market soared, their rent paperwork remained frozen in the past. But the real bombshell in the document was who was actually paying that subsidized bill. The Audit Office revealed that the rent is not being paid by the princesses at all. Instead, King Charles has been personally covering their rent out of the privy purse, using private funds from the Duchy of Lancaster. In a modern world facing intense economic pressure, the image of two wealthy, non-working princesses living rent-free in royal palaces on the king's dime has sparked immediate public outrage. Buckingham Palace did not deny the findings, simply stating that property arrangements vary based on location, tenants, and purpose. But this audit has suddenly put a giant spotlight on the sisters' living arrangements. And as the public backlash grows, King Charles is finding himself backed into a dangerous corner, forced to make a decision that will change the sisters' lives forever. Every headline tells you King Charles holds all the power, but the truth is he is currently trapped in a political nightmare of his own making. Reports suggest the king has been desperately trying to project the image of a modernized, scaled-back monarchy to the public. He wants a lean institution that doesn't look like an expensive burden to the average taxpayer. But the discovery that he is personally funding his niece's luxury lifestyles has completely derailed that narrative. Now, the king finds himself stuck in a brutal dilemma. If he cuts Beatrice and Eugenie off, evicts them from their palace homes, and strips them of their titles, he looks like a ruthless uncle punishing two women for the sins of their father. But if he leaves things exactly as they are, the public anger over these royal privileges will only continue to grow. And what makes this situation so incredibly tense is that the king is not the only one watching this play out. Rumors indicate that Prince William is waiting in the wings with a completely different plan for the family's future. Sources claim the Prince of Wales has already started setting a strict new standard for how royal properties should be managed. He has reportedly made the private terms of his own home lease public, sending a clear message to everyone else in the family. Insiders say William's ultimate goal is to completely stop non-working royals from living in royal palaces. When he eventually takes the throne, the era of heavily discounted rents and palace apartments for extended family members will officially be over. And the sisters know that while their uncle might hesitate to act, their cousin will not. But the most tragic twist in this entire saga is how this intense spotlight found the princesses in the first place. They didn't attract this scrutiny through their own actions. It is believed the entire audit into royal housing was actually triggered by their father, Andrew, and the ongoing messy dispute over his lease at Royal Lodge. In trying to investigate his finances, the watchdog accidentally stumbled upon the sweet deal his daughters were receiving. With pressure mounting from the public, the government, and within their own family, Beatrice and Eugenie are running out of time to protect their standing. Which brings us to the ultimate question. How will this quiet battle finally end, and what does the future actually hold for the two York princesses? They could surrender their royal status tomorrow, and the sky would not fall. In fact, history proves it is remarkably easy to stop being a princess. The grand illusion is that once you are born royal, you must die royal. But as the pressure on Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie reaches an all-time high, a quiet but powerful chorus of experts is suggesting that the sisters' best move isn't to wait for the king to act, it is to make the first move themselves. According to sources, several prominent royal commentators believe the princesses are currently standing at a massive crossroads. Former BBC royal correspondent Jenny Bond has publicly suggested that the York sisters should seriously consider voluntarily dropping their titles. The logic is simple, yet incredibly powerful. A title you willingly surrender becomes a story about dignity, sacrifice, and modernizing the crown. But a title that is eventually taken from you by the monarch is a story of public punishment and family shame. And if they choose to walk this path, they wouldn't be the first to do so. Throughout history, members of the family have quietly set aside their royal styles. Way back in 1919, Princess Patricia of Connaught, a granddaughter of Queen Victoria, was permitted by King George V to give up her Royal Highness style and her title of princess when she married a commoner. It was clean, it was peaceful, and the monarchy moved on. But is dropping the titles actually the right move for Beatrice and Eugenie today? Insiders say the arguments are deeply divided, and both sides carry massive consequences. On one hand, those who believe they should give up their titles argue that the York brand is permanently damaged. With their father officially stripped of his prince title in late 2025 and facing ongoing legal troubles, keeping their royal titles keeps them tied directly to the family's deepest modern controversies. Giving them up would allow Beatrice and Eugenie to step completely out of the line of fire, build their private careers, and protect their own young families from the constant, unforgiving media spotlight. But on the other hand, there is a very strong argument for why they must hold onto their titles at all costs. Rumors indicate that despite the public backlash, King Charles actually holds deep affection for his nieces and has previously made it clear he wants them protected. They did nothing wrong, and stripping them of their birthright because of their parents' choices would set a highly dangerous precedent. Furthermore, with the royal family currently facing a shortage of active working members, some experts argue that Prince William and King Charles may eventually need Beatrice and Eugenie to step up and help carry the workload in the future. If they surrender their titles now, that door is closed forever. When you weigh all the evidence, a highly fascinating picture emerges. It is highly unlikely that King Charles will actively strip his nieces of their princess titles. It would look far too cruel in the eyes of the public. However, the real danger doesn't lie with their uncle. It lies with the future king, Prince William, and his plans to completely reform who gets to live in the palaces and carry the family's prestigious branding. By keeping their titles but staying quiet, the sisters are playing a highly calculated game of wait and see. But as the financial and public pressure continues to mount, they may soon find that the choice is no longer theirs to make. And as the palace gears up for its next major transition, the ultimate final chapter of this historic family drama is about to be written. The headlines will tell you that Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are safe. They will tell you that the king's hands are tied by history, by parliament, and by law. But as the official records show, his hands are not tied at all. The very same pen that signed away their father's royal title can sign away theirs without asking a single politician for permission. For the two sisters, survival is no longer about the titles they were born with. It is about a much more complicated reality involving luxury palace rents, public scrutiny, and a looming reform under the future king that could change everything. By staying visible, standing by the family, and showing up when it matters most, Beatrice and Eugenie are trying to write their own ending to this unprecedented story. But in a changing monarchy, time may be running out. The real story of the crown isn't found in the tabloid rumors. It is found in the official documents, the audits, and the decrees that move quietly when the public isn't looking. If you want to stay ahead of the next major shift and see the real paperwork before it hits the headlines, make sure to subscribe to Royal Family UK. Tap that notification bell, join our community, and we will make sure you never miss a chapter of what comes next.